education. We're back after now.
Many people, different tribes, different tongues, we're united in our strength and resolve.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's move to education. The Nigeria Learning Passport. Yeah, like I said before, passport. Okay. It's an online e-learning education platform model for basic and secondary level education tailored to the needs of children who are either out of school or in need of support to ensure the education they're receiving is of sufficient quality. Yeah. So a child is going to determine by himself that the education he's getting is of sufficient quality. Okay, well, that's a question that's running around in my head, but we have guests who are going to be able to answer that question. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Peter Hawkins of UNICEF Nigeria, the UNICEF Nigeria country representative, who is in our studio in Abuja.
To be on Sunrise.
Good morning, Mr. Hawkins. We also have Abubakar Issa, who is the Director, ICT, Federal Ministry of Education. Good morning, Mr. Issa.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Thank you both for joining us. Mr. Hawkins, you are with us again today. Now, this thing is called Nigeria Learning Passport. I'm wondering, why that name?
Well, one, Nigeria, because it's been adapted for Nigeria and against Nigeria's curriculum. Two, it's about learning, and it's how children can learn, whether in the classroom, outside the classroom, at home, in the community, or wherever they are. And three, a passport, it gives them access. And this is the key issue.
Gives them access,
what
okay.
Nigeria Learning Passport does, whether online, offline, or in your mobile, it gives you access to learning. And that's the critical change that Nigeria Learning Passport is bringing about. This year, between now and the end of 2023, we aim to reach 4.5 million, and by 2025, 12 million children to be able to access Nigeria Learning Passport.
Yeah, Mr. Issa, can you tell us when this was introduced first, so that I can lead on from there? When was the learning passport introduced?
We've been working on it for the past 6 months, or about a year, building it, getting all the curriculum content we need. We have gotten about 14,000 curriculum-based content. We're just about to launch it next week. It's been online while we're trying it and testing it, but we're just about to launch it on the 24th of this month. All the subjects, all the lessons have been carefully selected based on Nigerian curriculum, and they were developed 100% by Nigerian entrepreneurs, and it's absolutely Nigerian-based content. In the last 2 weeks, it's been undergoing reviews. We have about 35 people that went across videos, each video, to make sure the quality of video, sound, subject matter, gender parity has been taken care of. It's online, currently online, and they're busy uploading the content. It should be up. We should officially launch it on 24th. It's going to be a supporting e-learning site for other sites the ministry already has developed. But the focus now is on this because it's specifically focused on basic education, which is our main challenge that we think we need to focus on and get the Nigerian kids involved in education wherever they are, in or outside the school.
You say it's going to be launched next week? Mr. Issa?
Yeah, it will be launched on the 24th of March.
31st of March.
Thursday.
But you have been, should we say, test running it? Is that correct, sir?
I didn't get. Can you repeat?
I beg your pardon?
I didn't hear you.
I said, did you say that it's been test run already?
Yes, it's been tested on already. It's been live for the past 6-7 months.
Okay.
It's been
Now,
live.
so-
It has content already, but we are now focusing on the curriculum-based content because we have some OERs, open educational resource materials, that have been uploaded on it, and we are now uploading curriculum-based content so that when we launch it on the 24th,
since it was introduced,
we think as a starting point.
Since it was introduced, what improvements have you noticed in the education sector, in the children's performances?
We're not hearing you, can she?
Okay, I'm sure that our officers are working on that already. But, you know, the question actually, Mr. Issa, is since the introduction of this e-learning platform, what are the things that you have discovered? I was actually going to ask you, what necessitated it in the first place?
After the COVID pandemic and schools have to shut down, globally 1.2 billion kids were out of school. In Nigeria, we were hit hard more because we didn't have the platforms to support education outside school environment. And we were grateful GPE, in collaboration with UNICEF, supported us in building something that we could start on. And in that period, we got Nigerians that had e-learning platforms graciously made available to the ministry, those platforms which we shared nationwide. And it was amazing that a lot of Nigerians, over 1 million of them, logged onto those sites for their education. And we felt after then we didn't need to wait for another pandemic. We should get our own self ready, have our own sites ready that are basically structures based on government curriculum. And it's free. That's one key thing. Our site, the one the ministry have built and the one UNICEF is helping us with, the learning passport, is absolutely free. And it covers the entire curriculum. Now, the idea is that it supports education, it supports extra lessons, and if you're out of school environment, it supports you to be able to read. The topics are arranged in such a way, a manner that if you are going to classroom, it will have been arranged in a serial manner, in a logical manner, and that's exactly how we arrange the topics on Learning Passport and even on the other government e-learning sites that we have done. And this has tremendously helped. Last year, WAEC result was very good because we believed we did an extra lesson period for students on radio, on TV, online. And the ministry was quite happy with that. And we also intend to carry it further to be able to make available opportunities for Nigerian child to learn. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, well, it's a good start. But Mr. Hawkins, from what you know, I mean, you know, you've come here quite a few times and expressed your concern about the number of out-of-school children. But then we cannot ignore the technological challenge of so many people. And access to technology, access to data services, data packages, data bundles, and all of that. What are some, well, these are some of the challenges that come off the top of my head. What are some of the challenges that you have seen? And Mr. Issa said it's been on for some 6-7 months now. So what are some of the challenges that have been observed, and what would be your recommendations in ensuring that we can overcome them?
This is the third in a very important step in ensuring that the content, and we're talking about Nigeria Learning Passport, is about the content here, the curriculum, right through from basic education through secondary education, is now available to everybody. Complementing this is the fact that there are programs like Generation Unlimited Niger, which is looking at school-to-school connectivity and community-community connectivity. And there are a lot of people working on that, including where the young people or children will have access to data. And then there is a much bigger program which is looking at the expanse of the digital platform. So the three of those, so having access to the digital platform, having school-to-school connectivity and community-to-community connectivity, and now the content, the Nigeria Learning Passport, it does mean the three complementary activities will come together to ensure that all children, wherever they might be, will have access to content for learning. Now, not every community is going to be able to overcome this. I've just been in Sokoto, Katsina, and Zamfara, driving around those three states. As you know, the conflict there has impeded a lot of people's education. So it's cases like that where children are unable to go to school, have connectivity, have access to online or offline or mobile data. They can continue to learn by accessing Nigeria Learning Passport at any time from anywhere.
Mr. Hawkins, you have been on this program before and you've spoken at length about out-of-school children in Nigeria. Now, with the introduction of this online learning, has there been any reduction, even if marginally, in the number of out-of-school children?
It's difficult to say at this stage, but that's the ultimate aim, is ensuring that those out-of-school children have access to learning facilities. And there's a lot of activities going on at community and at informal education level, wherever you might be, whether you be in Borno, whether you be in Lagos, in some of the areas where schooling is inaccessible, or whether you're in Oyo or Kwara. There are a lot of activities to ensure that out-of-school children have access to some sort of informal education, if not formal education. As I said, I've just been in Katsina, where with the Commissioner of Education and SUBEB, there are a lot of activities to try and ensure in all the schools that those out-of-school children have access to some sort of form of learning, whether it's in school or through some sort of informal learning activity. Nigeria Learning Passport is a crucial tool in ensuring that that is possible.
Is UNICEF helping these children in any way regarding access to technology and stuff like that?
Absolutely, and this is at the forefront of what we're trying to do with young people and at school level, is developing the programs and developing the concept with the private sector, with the government, and with the international community to ensure that young people, and especially those out of school and in school, have access to technology. But more importantly, I think there is the ideal that young people are adept at using technology. They're much better than certainly I am, and therefore can meander their way through things like Nigeria Learning Passport to pick out the bits and pieces that they require for their own learning, for their own education, whether they're at basic level or whether they're junior secondary or secondary level, whether they want to go in the direction of arts, whether they want to go in the direction of science, or in skills and life skills development. These are what empower young people to do, so that they can make those choices, as well as, if they are going to formal education, developing their skills and knowledge at formal education. If they're going to an Al-Majri school, for example, they get their education there. There are different ways and different attempts to try and ensure ultimately what the Ministry of Education, UNICEF, and all the others are trying to do is give access to learning for young people from a very early age, 24 hours a day, so that they can make those choices and they can be skilled to be able to be part of the workforce when they get older.
Well, Mr. Issa, let me ask you the question about the challenges and how we get ahead of them. Availability, the provision is one thing. Having access to the technology, as Lera has asked, that's something of concern, no doubt. Let me believe, I do believe that some of these issues must have come in conversations. What is the plan?
Yeah, well, if I hear you very well, you are talking about access to education or access to these platforms. The ministry has, we have done the first step by making this platform available, and thanks to UNICEF and GPE for supporting us to build this platform. But we also know there are two main challenges, access and devices. Devices in terms of handset, tablets, laptops that will make these platforms available and access to all our children across the country, even in remote, hard-to-reach environment. And then, of course, as a bandwidth cost. And what the ministry is thinking of, the ministry is partnering with many of the agencies we have in government. I mean, the ministry is in good collaboration with the broadband policy of Comtech to see how do we ensure that we had bandwidth in all our schools. That is an ongoing conversation. And we're also discussing with the telcos to develop two options, either a zero data plan such that for these sites, they don't charge for kids to have access to this site, or an education data plan. We are more for education data plan because that way it enables the competition among the telecoms and people have value for whatever they are paying for. For instance, we could come up with a plan that says 2 gig at a cost of 100 naira, but that's you only have access to education platforms. That way students, parents will have the peace of mind that their kids are only visiting education sites once they get them those data plans. But then the main key thing is devices, and that's the tricky one. But conversations are on with manufacturers, with the Ministry of Comtech again, with the NCC, and how do we make affordable devices available? What we have done with the Learning Passport is to make it offline, meaning that you don't need to have access to internet to have it. Once you build a small hub within your school, you can have access to the entire content. And that's applicable to all the other content we have within our e-learning suite, if I could use that word. And that's what we are going about. I know it's going to take a little while for us to have affordable access and affordable devices, but I can assure you that it's something that government is taking very serious and is working towards it to partner with private sector to come into the country and manufacture, assemble very cheap, affordable devices that can, I'm sure in the third quarter of this year, we should come up with a policy. Government is currently coming up with actually device policy. We're coming up with a policy that defines what does a primary school need in terms of devices. What does a secondary school need in terms of, what are the minimal devices that should be used in those environments? And what are the quality checks and cybersecurity check that should be built around these devices to protect the young ones from having access to internet and being bullied, etc., etc. We are much thinking around it, and I'm sure before the second, third quarter of this year, we'll come up with a policy direction as to this. But the most important thing we have done now is, like I said earlier on, thanks to UNICEF, and GPE, and Microsoft, and all our partners, is at least now we have a platform that is well curated and is free and is available online. We now need to worry about how do we ensure that as many kids as possible have access to these devices, and then, of course, the learning outcome. I'm sure that's where Mr. UNICEF and Co will help us to determine what is the actual learning outcome. Are the kids learning something from these sites? Is it helpful to them? Can we replace this with the Almajiri system? Can it be added? Can I be a header in the bush and having these devices that actually learn something? I think that part we need to talk about.
I was going to ask you along the same line, since you're from the Federal Ministry of Education, is it something that schools will recognize to write WAEC and JAMB, and does the education industry in Nigeria, is it something that the education industry in Nigeria will recognize as a valid form of education that is certifiable?
Sure. The whole world is going towards that direction, and we can't be different. Online education has come to stay. Online, offline, mix. There are some universities, there are some schools overseas that are shutting down their schools because they don't have the students anymore. You can sit at home and study. So why do I need to move to a town? For instance, if I'm reading humanities and I'm in UI or University of a degree, I can sit at home and have all my lectures. But of course, the rules governing that is not NUC's cup of tea, and I'm sure they are working on that. I think we have about 10 universities currently in Nigeria that have those licenses. Like Open University, for instance, you don't have to come to any, you only come for some lectures towards the exam, but you do almost 100% curriculum online. So I'm sure it's something that we are working towards, and I'm sure if the Open University certificate is recognized, I'm sure we're already on that path. And I'm sure all we need to do is to tighten up the checks and balances to ensure that online or offline, in classroom or outside classroom education is almost the same. And like I said earlier on, learning outcomes. If I sit in my house and I go through a curriculum, what do I learn? Is it comparable to if I'm in school and I and learn the same thing? I guess that's where our psychologists and a lot of people need to do a lot of work to be able to come up with findings as to how this relate. Going to a university campus is a different ballgame together. It's not only the education you have, but the social interaction with people, how to relate to other people, etc., leadership quality, etc., etc. But I think it's a new field that I'm sure very soon there will be a lot of studies on. Thank you.
Mr. Issa, is the platform simple enough for a child, a student, to sit at home and be able to actually learn from it so that they can pass exams, you know, without a teacher guiding them?
Yeah, it's very, very interactive, very user-friendly. You don't need to have, just like if any kid can operate a phone, he can operate the learning passport. It's very straightforward. Subjects are arranged, subject by subject, topic by topic, just the way the NERDC curriculum is arranged. I mean, if you take NERDC curriculum and pick, for instance, mathematics for primary one, there is a sequencing of these topics, the way they are arranged, so that you are learning from this easy one to hard one, so that it makes the kind of sense to you. And that's exactly how we build the learning passport. And so we think it's very easy, but of course, we'll be monitoring to find out the challenges. We have a support desk where we expect people to give us a feedback as to how easy it is. We have, as technology people, we have built it, but we don't know what challenges out there people will have. But I guess it's a work in progress, and I'm sure we built it 100% from scratch, in-house in the country. So tweaking it, but whatever observation we have shouldn't be a problem.
Is
but
it the
I think
same?
it's easy enough for anybody, for any child to go through.
Is it the same version that a child will use if they decide to go through it themselves? Is it the same as the one that a teacher would use in a school, for instance? And if it is not, are there any special interactions with the teachers on how they can take the children through the process easily?
The learning passport, yes. We have 3 e-learning sites, but we are focused on the learning passport today because that's what we are about to launch. Okay. But sometimes in November, we launch 2 other sites, one called Inspire, which covers from primary school to tertiary institution. Then we have Ignite, which is specifically teacher-focused, but they're all interwoven together. So as a teacher, you have access to the entire lesson note. You plan how you plan your lesson on a particular topic, and you can go through it. So even if you are, for instance, a copper, and you're asked to go and teach in the school that you don't have a teaching experience, or you don't have any teaching qualification or whatever, you can go online on the ministry's Ignite sites, and you can pick a topic. The entire thing is arranged in such a way, Amanda, it guides you. What is the objective of that topic? How are you supposed to teach that topic? What is expected? What is the learning outcome of that topic? And at the end of it, what do we expect the kids to have learned you teaching that topic? So it's kind of interwoven, and I'm sure it's going to be it's going to be a game changer for the entire country in terms of usability and in terms of our teachers using it. So I believe you can use it as an additional material that will aid you or make you understand how a particular topic is. If, for instance, you have a difficulty in a topic, you can go on the Learning Passport or the Inspire and get that particular topic and go through it over and over. The beauty of technology is that it's there. You can watch a video 100 times until you get to understand what it means. And even for a teacher that does not understand the topic very well, can still go online, get the lesson plan and lesson note, and get to understand how it is so that it can impact on the student in a better way and manner. So I think we think it's something that will change the entire educational space.
Okay. Mr. Hawkins, it would seem like there are at least three levels of new learning for the people who will be using or interacting with this learning passport. On the one hand, is adapting to the use of technology. Mobile devices, laptops, tablets, phablets, and all of that. On the other hand, the second one is navigating the websites. If it was a book, I could just pick one. Okay, this is not the one, I'll drop it, I'll pick another one. But navigating the websites or even, I don't know if there is an app for it yet. If there is, navigating the app as well, that's a second leg of learning. The third would be the actual learning. With the level of literacy in the country, from what you know, how good are we and how hopeful are you of how fast this learning passport will integrate the nation?
I think he'll be critical in helping unite the nation, if I may say so, especially for girls and young women. It's a way that they can look at literacy in a more assimilated way. The platform has been developed by UNICEF and Microsoft globally, and Nigeria, being an important country, is one of the few that are adapting it now. The program is in the four languages: English, Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. It's there and it's very, very accessible. And I think going through your three and the third especially, it would be the critical factor that might change a child's life, not only in terms of life skills, literacy, and numeracy as well. Wherever they are, there is now no excuse not to be able to access it. I think that the issue of devices is the correct issue, and we're going to be working hard over the next 2 to 3 years to ensure that issues, especially at school, but also in communities and in informal educational sites, there is some sort of device where children can access whether it's the learning passport or other learning materials that children require to be able to do it. Now, in terms of technology, I don't know about you, but young people tell me how to navigate technology. They're adept. It's instinctive in the way that they work and the way that they do things. And I'm sure in many cases it will be the children helping the teacher to navigate as much as the other way around. But let's not forget, this does not replace face-to-face teaching and learning. This complements and builds on face-to-face learning, or at times it's in complementing face-to-face learning, it's because face-to-face learning is not there, it's an alternative way. But face-to-face learning is still an important part of a child's learning, developing life skills, interacting with other students, interacting with teachers and other people. So that is still an integral part of this. But this builds on that, complements it, and allows other children who might not have face-to-face learning to be able to interrogate learning. For those who do have face-to-face learning, it means that they can have it as continuous learning. If they aren't able to go to school, or even in the evenings or what have you, they can interrogate the Nigeria learning passport even more.
Well, it's a good thing at least you've identified the fact that the children are going to be teaching their teachers and possibly even their parents.
Well, definitely their parents. Definitely their parents.
Yeah, but where I am now is the support that needs to come from where to where. Talking about the people who are going to be using it, the students and the teachers now. What kind of support system should be coming for them and from where? In terms of support for the technology itself, how do you see it playing out? So support on the two levels now. Support at the level of the use and support from outside for the technology and the system that runs it.
Well, the support from outside is very clear. Microsoft powers this and will continue to do it.
Okay.
Support on the technology inside, people like organizations like IHS, Airtel, MTN and others are fully behind this and are creating the environment that allows young people to access it. But support in terms of community level, 30,500 teachers have already been trained through support from GPE. That will continue and increase, and the more that is increased, the more that people will be able to help each other to access it. As I said, I was in Katsina, and one of the teachers there said to me, Peter, Nigeria Learning Passport is coming. How exciting. This is right in the middle of nowhere. So people are beginning to understand it, are beginning to get excited by it. Young people will interrogate it and find a way. There's no question about it. But they will also be able to get the support from currently 30,500 people around the country, but that will increase threefold, fourfold, and forever and ever as Nigeria Learning Passport becomes an integral part of learning in Nigeria wherever you are.
But it can be very addictive using technology. I mean, you talked
Absolutely.
about children. So there's going to be a tough time divorcing the children, so to speak,
from
their devices.
Yes.
So what's any thinking along that plan, the kind of understanding the parents should have and the kind of intervention that the parents would need to help the children balance life and online learning?
It is addictive, but books are addictive. And children, I remember as a child myself and my own children reading books all the time, and they're addictive. But books are not available for many children as you go around the country. So we need to increase the number of books, but we also need to increase, as you quite rightly say, the understanding and the acceptability that people should go online or offline or on their smartphone. There is an app. It is a very good app, and use that app. That app is instinctive, and it allows you to meander through to the places you want to be. So yes, we need to have an understanding in the same way as when children would sit in a corner and read a book, that if they're sitting on the phone and accessing Nigeria Learning Passport, and that is the key, Nigeria Learning Passport, NLP, that app is integral and it allows you to meander through a very safe and instinctive and very well thought through app in the 3 or 4 languages, if you include English, in Hausa, in Yoruba, and Igbo, so that people can access that learning wherever they are.
Okay, Mr. Issa, you spoke earlier about having conversations with people regarding getting these children affordable devices. How long before we expect some positive response from those who are working on these devices?
I'm hopeful that before this end of the second quarter, we'll have finished our policy direction on affordable devices. Now, the other thing is a lot of economics, commerce, government policies that will add that. But we're all resolved that for this to work very well, we need that support. And I'm sure, hopefully before the end of this year, I'm sure, and our development partners are with us in this. that they need to support us. So I'm sure before the end of this year, we should have a lot of affordable devices in the market. And but the policy around it should be up and running by end of second quarter of this year.
Okay, well, Mr. Issa, don't forget that primary education is supposed to be free. Just a thought.
And I think, sorry to come in, but this is free, and that is important. Yeah. And then access to devices is a challenge, and UNICEF is at the heart of shaping the market globally at trying to ensure that countries like Nigeria, where there is a massive market for devices, where devices can become accessible to children, young people and children. That will be the crunch. I accept that. Exactly. But wherever you go in Nigeria, and I know this from the digital side, that people have devices. It's about how they share those devices. And I'm sure what you're going to say is, do children have access to that devices? And that is why your earlier comment about parents, especially, allowing children to have access to the device to be able to access Nigeria Learning Passport.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, at least a little cheering that we know that. Mr. Issa, you've talked about the technical partners that have supported the Federal Ministry of Education about this. What kind of drill-down conversations is happening between the Federal Ministry of Education and the states' ministries of education, as well as the local governments?
It's a whole partnership. When this project started, one of the things we did was with the help of UNICEF and GP, was to provide ICT hub for each state. And we also brought the teachers from each state, I think about 4 or 6 of them, and trained them on the production of digital learning materials. So we have a very strong partnership. At every step, we're carrying them along to understand. A lot of the materials we're having are coming from the states, because we believe education is local, mannerism, etc., define education at the basic level. So we're carrying the states along as much as possible to produce their own content. And for instance, the ministry have dedicated a 20 terabyte space with our host Galaxy, and which is available for states to dump their content on it. That means we have taken the responsibility of that stress of them, so that whatever content they have, whatever the size, we will host it for them, and it's available for them and available for every Nigerian child. You can imagine if 36 states, all the states we have, including FCT, produce content on, say, biology. That means we have about how many different versions of those subjects. And all this can be in one place, and then the student will have the right to choose. So this conversation is going on, and we are doing as much as possible with UBEC, with the suburbs, and everybody carrying everybody along. And like Mr. Peter said, a lot of the states, Lagos, Edo, Kano, Sokoto, Katsina, everybody is in this together. It's not like it's a Ministry of Education thing. It's a national thing, and everybody has been part of it. The teacher training we're doing is across the entire country, and every state is part of it. And the whole idea is that we need to have teachers that are 21st century teachers that know how to use devices to teach. So it's a whole big game. We know it's a big game changer for the entire country, and we are happy to lead it. And we are very glad that every state are cooperating with us and are coming along with us in this journey. And we hope everybody will be better off at the end of it. There are challenges, but I'm sure we'll talk more. There are more of the positive part of it than the little challenges we have.
Happy to hear that, Mr. Issa, but history tells us so many things. Sustainability of enormously fantastic projects such as this that's been a challenge. So that's why that question, is coming, now, because if it is all happening from the federal level, then we know that it's stillbirth, if you will forgive me for saying. But the partnership with the states and the partnership with the local government levels of the various tiers, how are we going to ensure, and I know it's a little difficult for you because, I mean, you can't really, you may not be able to say everything that needs to be said, but what are the challenges that have been envisaged, you know, working with the state governments, working with the local governments? We are such a huge nation. 774 local governments that are in the Constitution. And you also know that there are many local council development areas spread all over the nation. So that's the reason that this concern is being raised with you, to ensure not just a fantastic takeoff, but an upward trajectory in the development of this for use forever.
You know, globally, most countries have learning passport for that country alone. For instance, if you look at Jordan, they have Jordan learning passport, or Zimbabwe, or South Africa. But in Nigerian case, what we did was to have state instances. So if you go to the Nigerian learning passport, we have about 12 to 16 states that also have their own instances. What it means is that they have their own version of the Nigerian learning passport with their own local content. And the whole idea is that so that we don't see it as a federal government project, we see it as an educational project for the entire country. And this is the first time, even Microsoft, we have to work with Microsoft back and forth to tweak the entire learning passport algorithm to accommodate state instances. And we're encouraging some states to even do their content in Hausa, for instance, because we're more concerned about basic level. And what we think is that it's going to be a takeaway for everybody. Everybody is part of it. And if some states are not interested, I'm sure there are a lot of more states that will be interested. So that way, we get to keep this going. The nitty-gritty of it, the disagreements and co, we thought as federal government we should have at least a platform who will pay part of the bills. We discuss more directly with our development partners. We will sustain it at that level. Okay. But how do we get the states to be part of it? And that was the reason for them to have part of ownership. We created those instances for those states. And you won't believe what we found out in the field. You go to some states, and they have done a lot of amazing work. Benue State, for instance, have done a lot of amazing work in terms of content they have produced themselves by themselves. Katsina have a lot of content. Kano, every state you go. And it's quite amazing, and we give them a platform to provide this content for not only for their local environment, for the entire country. And it's been quite exciting. Anytime we call for a meeting or for conversation, they're ever willing, and they're quite excited about it. So I'm sure it's something that I hope will not die very soon. And I'm sure it's something that we'll get to keep tweaking it. And it's the next generation we have now are more technology savvy than us. And it might be difficult for them to read a book, but once you give them a tool and a device, they're easy, they're at home with it. So I'm sure it's something that we're going to find a way of sustaining this over and over for a very long period. Especially, and probably most likely improve on it. Everybody is going that way, and we can't afford not to.
Yeah, especially when it has videos and all of that. Other than that, put only text. Exactly. You're going to have to come back for yourself. Talk to us about this. Talk to us about the official launch that you mentioned, that you say is going to be launched in the week ahead.
Yes, on 24th.
Okay.
Specifically on 24th, on Thursday.
Okay. What exactly is being launched? Are people going to have a passport in their hands?
Your passport is just to create an account on the learning passport. Okay. And that gives you an access to, at the moment, over 15,000 educational materials, clipsy videos, audio sound, nice audio sounds, a lot of text to read. And it can be your access, a lot of life skill lectures, etc., etc. And it can be your passport to a better life in the very near future.
Okay. Obviously, you said it's online. So what website is it? Maybe there are some people that can want to visit right away.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
The website that people can check out right now. My producer, my colleagues are already picking up a pen and paper.
NP, Nigerian Learning Passport, but NLP.
Okay.
.education.gov.ng.
NLP?
Okay. .education.
Nigerian Learning Passport, but with it NLP.
NLP, yes.
.education.
Okay.
.gov.ng.
Okay.
.gov.ng.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So,
nlp.education.gov.ng. Gotcha.
okay. Is there
Yes.
going to be an app?
Yes, we already have an app on the Google Store.
Oh, already. Amazing.
And on the iOS also.
And what do we have?
The app is up and running, been up and running for the past, I think, 3 to 6 months.
Interesting. What's the name of the app? Oh, okay. That's
Yeah, the same Nigerian Learning Passport.
interesting.
Nigeria Learning Passport. Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's this is really encouraging. So, well, Mr. Hawkins, last words. What are the things that you would want anyone to look out for now? Okay, that's a trajectory, that's a traction already generated on the project that you can see on your screen right now, and tells you everything that needs to be seen about that one. But so, Mr. Hawkins, what else do people need to know in order to embrace this initiative?
I think the first thing is as your previous speaker said, education, education, education. But perhaps I could refine that by saying learning, learning, learning. That all children now with Nigeria Learning Passport have access to learning. There's no one left behind. The second thing is that it does not replace the classroom. It does not replace the face-to-face activity with your colleagues, with your fellow pupils, and that play and interaction that is so crucial. But it complements and it allows for those children who are unable for one reason or another to go to school to have access to some sort of learning. And the third is, learning is a crucial part of what Nigeria is all about. And this platform allows all children to learn in a way that ensures that they can become numerate, they can become literate, they can have the life skills that is so important to be able to get jobs or to survive. As you said, most of the jobs are in the informal economy. What they require is connectivity. And this is what Nigeria Learning Passport allows children to do, to connect to learning, to be able to use in their later life. So I think it's a crucial part of everything that we're trying to do is to ensure that no child is left behind, that data and technology is the way forward, and for young people, it's where they really do start to dominate and can take things over. Let's celebrate this immensely, but let's evaluate it in 2 years, 3 years' time to see not only whether the 4.5 million we're targeting are able to access it and achieve from it, but what is the outcome from that? Has it increased their learning outcomes? Has it ensured that those out-of-school children or children who don't have access to formal education have a way of accessing some sort of learning that will benefit them in their later life?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hawking. Well, Mr. Issa, I can tell you this. I'm just checking the 2 platforms. The Nigeria Learning Passport, I can see it on Android in the Google Play Store. Android is there, but
Not on iOS.
I can't see it on iOS yet. Maybe you want to help us some other time.
I'll get a young child to come and help you.
No. Well, if I can find it on Android, I most certainly should be able to find it on the iOS. But thank you very much, gentlemen. We just wanted to give you that feedback very quickly.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Peter Hawkins, UNICEF Nigeria Country Representative, and Mr. Abubakar Issa, Director, ICT, Federal Ministry of Education. Good luck at your launch on Thursday, and good luck with this massive project, which the Ministry of Education, in conjunction with UNICEF, Microsoft, and so on, has decided to embark on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sunrise will be right back with the
Home stretch. The cocoa.